As the geopolitical landscape grows increasingly complex, China's leadership has laid out a strategic response to the escalating trade and technology tensions with the United States. This week, thousands of delegates gathered in Beijing for the annual two sessions where the country's top political advisory body and legislative assembly convened to discuss critical policy directions. Amidst rising tariffs and a shifting global trade environment, Chinese Premier Li Qiang emphasized a growth target of 5% for 2025 and characterized the intensifying competition with the U.S. as changes unseen in a century. The backdrop of these discussions is marked by President Donald Trump's administration's significant tariff increases, which have prompted retaliatory measures from Beijing. As Li noted in his address, the multilateral trading system is experiencing disruptions and China must brace for a more complex and severe external environment affecting its trade and technological advancements. The stakes are high, with additional tariffs set to take effect on March 10 as China responds to U.S. tariffs with its own 10 to 15% levies on selected American products. China's foreign ministry has issued a resolute stance declaring its readiness to engage in a prolonged conflict should the U.S. continue its aggressive trade policies. If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end, a ministry spokesperson stated, reflecting an increasingly defiant attitude from Beijing. However, analysts suggest that while retaliatory tariffs may serve as a show of strength, their actual economic impact might be less severe than anticipated. Chenggang Su, a senior research scholar at the Stanford Center on China's Economy and Institutions, pointed out that Trump's tariffs on China are lower than previously declared, suggesting a less direct threat to China's economy than initially feared. Furthermore, Antonia Mady from the Mercator Institute for China Studies argued that Beijing's long-term vision for economic growth is unlikely to be derailed by short-term tariff challenges. A more pressing concern for China might be the U.S. restrictions on access to advanced technologies, particularly in the semiconductor sector. Mady noted the critical need for China to enhance its capabilities in high-tech manufacturing, an initiative that has been part of the country's long-term plans like Made in China 2025. The Chinese leadership remains optimistic about overcoming these challenges, as evidenced by recent advancements in artificial intelligence and other high-tech sectors. In the context of domestic economic challenges including sluggish consumer demand and a struggling real estate market, the Chinese government is also focusing on stimulating consumption. Premier Li announced a targeted increase in the government deficit to GDP ratio to around 4% for 2025, alongside a substantial fiscal stimulus plan aimed at boosting domestic economic activity. While the Chinese government expresses confidence in its economic strategies, some analysts caution that the underlying issues contributing to the economic slowdown, such as low household income share in the economy, remain unaddressed. Su emphasized the need for structural changes rather than just stimulus measures to truly revitalize growth. As the situation continues to evolve, the international community watches closely. The trade tensions and technological race between the U.S. and China are likely to shape global economic dynamics in the coming years, with both nations vying for technological supremacy and economic resilience. Future developments, particularly in U.S. policy and China's response strategies, will be pivotal in determining the trajectory of this complex relationship. In an escalating clash over trade policies, China has firmly rebuked the latest tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, asserting its economic resilience while warning that there are no winners in a trade war. This statement comes in the wake of significant tariffs applied to Chinese imports, which have raised tensions between the two global economic giants. During a press conference at the National People's Congress, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao emphasized that China would not succumb to what he termed bullying. He noted that coercion and threats would ultimately fail against a nation that serves as a principal trading partner to 140 countries. Our determination to defend our own interests is unswerving, Wang stated, reiterating Beijing's openness to dialogue but cautioning that further escalations by the U.S. would be met with strong resistance. The tariffs. which include a 20% levy on all imports from China, have been framed by the Trump administration as a necessary measure to combat issues such as drug trafficking, particularly fentanyl. However, Wang dismissed this rationale, arguing that blaming China for domestic drug problems would not lead to solutions. If the American side goes further down this wrong path, we will fight to the end, he warned. The impact of these tariffs is already reverberating through global markets. Following the announcement, stock prices in the US and Europe plummeted as investors reacted to the uncertainty surrounding trade relationships. Analysts project that prolonged tariffs could stifle economic growth and contribute to inflationary pressures, with some suggesting that American consumers could see an average increase of $1,000 in their annual expenses due to higher prices on everyday goods. Amid these tensions, Canada and Mexico have also reacted vehemently to US tariffs, imposing their own retaliatory measures. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the tariffs as very dumb, asserting that they would only harm both American and Canadian economies. He has called for unity among Canadians and vowed to protect the nation's economic interests fiercely. A fight with Canada will have no winners, he declared, highlighting the interconnectedness of the economies. The implications of this trade war extend beyond immediate economic concerns as political leaders grapple with the potential fallout. Critics of the Trump administration's approach argue that ongoing tariffs could jeopardize future cooperation on critical issues including national security and climate change. There is a growing sentiment that a more collaborative framework is needed to address global challenges rather than exacerbating tensions between powerful nations. As the situation evolves, the international community watches closely, with many questioning the long-term sustainability of such aggressive trade policies. The potential for diplomatic solutions remains open, but the path forward is fraught with complexities that require careful navigation. In the coming months, the resilience of China's economy will be tested, and the response from the US will likely shape the future of global trade relations. In a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape, recent developments highlight the intensifying tensions between the United States and China, with repercussions felt across global trade and military dynamics. Shipping companies are increasingly distancing themselves from Hong Kong, fearing the unpredictable risks posed by US-China relations. This shift not only reflects the current state of international trade but also signals broader implications for global shipping routes and alliances, as shipping firms re-evaluate their strategies. Concerns over China's military assertiveness have amplified. Reports indicate that Chinese warships are appearing in unexpected regions, causing alarm among US allies. This growing military presence is perceived as a clear signal of China's intentions to assert its influence, particularly in contested waters such as the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Analysts warned that this trend could become the new normal, reshaping naval strategies and alliances in the region. In a related move, China has announced a significant increase in its defense budget, pledging a 7.2% rise for 2025, bringing the total to approximately $246 billion. Premier Li Qiang, speaking at the National People's Congress, emphasized the importance of advancing national reunification efforts, particularly regarding Taiwan. "We will firmly advance the cause of China's reunification," he stated, underscoring the country's commitment to strengthening its military capabilities amidst rising tensions with the US and its allies. While China bolsters its defense spending, the United States has responded with its own economic measures, including tariffs on Chinese goods. President Trump's administration has imposed a 10% duty on certain imports, citing China's failure to curb fentanyl trafficking as a justification for these trade barriers. The Chinese government has dismissed these claims as unfounded, vowing to retaliate with its own tariffs. "Intimidation does not scare us," warned Foreign Ministry spokesperson Li Qiang, reflecting the escalating rhetoric on both sides. Meanwhile, geopolitical dynamics are also shifting in Southeast Asia. Cambodia has recently indicated that it may allow US Navy visits to a military port historically tied to China. This potential development comes as US and Chinese interests continue to vie for influence in the region. with Cambodia's stance potentially signaling a realignment among countries navigating the pressures exerted by both superpowers. The implications of these developments extend beyond military and trade considerations. The increased defense spending and military posturing by China come at a time when its economy is facing challenges such as a sluggish housing market and a push to stimulate consumer spending. Premier Li's emphasis on economic growth alongside military expansion suggests a dual strategy as Beijing attempts to navigate both domestic pressures and international competition. As the situation unfolds, it is evident that the relationship between the US and China is at a critical juncture with potential ramifications for global trade security and diplomatic relations. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether these tensions escalate further or if avenues for dialogue and cooperation can be found. As nations respond to these shifts, the world watches closely, aware that the stakes are high and the outcomes uncertain.